Good morning, everyone. Greetings from Dubai, from the COP28 United Nations Climate Conference, and from the Digital Innovation Pavilion. It is a joint pavilion of the Climate Change Coalition, IAI Glotcha. Co-hosts are HBAR Foundation, KPMG, Evercity, and with the sponsorship of SAP, Visa, Context Labs, Air Impact, Binpong, and BQ9, and the Linux Foundation. So, and we are delighted to have today with us Amy Seidman, Climate Change Coalition member and force of nature in the field of promoting digital solutions for SDGs implementation and climate action. And the topic is the decentralized commons and the role of digital identities and AI. Amy, we are delighted to have you virtually with us. Please share your solutions.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me, Miro. It's a pleasure to be here. Just wanting to make sure that everything is working. My name is Amy Seidman, and I'm the founder of Noble Profit and the technology BFlo, which I've built with some incredible, brilliant technologists, impact sustainability experts and advisors. And Noble Profit itself is an information and technology company for sustainable business and finance. And we've also, we're a hybrid nonprofit, and we've been developing BFlo technology with the intention of having a data commons. And we've come pretty far, which is really exciting. So we built this deep tech for transparent impact around data and assets. And as part of this, we're building this commons and this mechanism to connect impact and reputation to these resources and asset flows that we're all kind of looking at to solve these big problems in the world. And I can explain more about this topic as we go through. But before I do, I want to just say I'm super excited to share our invitation to companies and financial institutions to join the Transparency Consortium, which is a connective tissue of organizations piloting the BFlo technology. And our pilots are leading towards some open data and public data for shared intelligence. And on top of the BFlo protocol, and after testing thousands of use cases for real-time reporting using deep tech tools we've evolved, we integrated one of the newest frameworks by the UN called the UNSDPI. And I'm really excited to announce that Noble Profit will play a role as a satellite platform with the UN RISD SDPI platform. And Noble Profit has been participating in discussions to establish a UN RISD-led initiative to advocate and promote innovative approaches to sustainability assessment, which will be officially launched next year. And so our Transparency Consortium will have a portion that we're dedicating towards the UN SDPI. And there's a lot of really amazing things happening around that, which I'll explain. And I believe the combination of all these things really solves a lot of problems that we're seeing in the world. And that's why we're so dedicated to this. And while we're focused on business and finance, the applications are useful for governments, agencies, NGOs, and the different individuals that represent many of the stakeholders in the system. So when we look at it, you know, the world is super complicated, and we're trying to, you know, cover a lot of ground, but we're focusing particularly on these niches. So let's begin, and I will share my screen. Okay. So there you go. So as I mentioned, Noble Profit's an information technology company, and we focus on solving our great challenges. We're inspiring through story, educating through data, and taking action with technology. We're here today to talk about the decentralized commons and the role of digital identities and AI. And actually, you know what? I have this weird little thing I gotta just get rid of over here. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out how to highlight this one thing. Okay, let's do this. All right. Miro, can you see everything okay? All right, well, hopefully it's all working for everybody.
I can see it well.
Okay, so perfect. So what's the commons? You know, when we look at why do we need a data commons, the vision of creating a data commons is really to connect all of the points of light that have the ability for people to use information strategically. And it can come from many different places, like the forest uses mycelium to communicate, and we're seeing the need for this to connect a lot of really disconnected information and allow communication of systems and the health of the world and all of the resources and assets in this. And through this, we can create strategic reports and strategies, and we can see where resources are going. And we're living in a world of information where people don't own their own data, and it's harvested and monetized. So we've been looking at, you know, all of the different problems. And when we start to look at false information or missing information, we have the pressure within AI to have truth. You know, we're just going to see this increase in the synthetic identities. And meanwhile, we have investors that have lost a lot of money due to the lack of climate data, corporates that need that adjusted, you know, risk-adjusted return of 5% on climate investments. And then the public climate finance needs to increase to meet this before the private money will come in. And all this inaction is leading us to lose a tremendous amount of money. And there's a lot of missing trust and a lot of issues because we have false information and we're lacking credibility and the lack of verification on most of the claims that are out there around climate and sustainability. And this creates a lot of complexity, in addition to many of the things that are super disconnected. And when we start to look at the problems, we need these digital anchors of truth. We need to use AI for all the benefits that it can, because you can't manage what you can't measure, but how do we know what the truth is? We have all the global pressures, climate crisis, security, global regulations, missing tools, reputation and risk, tremendous amount of disconnected information against this trust, inconsistency, lack of verification, self-proclaimed expensive, and what we get is also a big mush of, you know, scrambled information. And how do we know what's true and how do we know what is not? So we created BFlo with the intention for providing this impact and sustainability protocol that would provide the connective tissue around this. And science follows with the ability for many to work on a problem. And that's where I believe that the data commons and distributed systems can come in. We can bring forth, you know, the rapid change that we need and fill in the dots of the lack of information for people to make right decisions. And on top of that, we have a lot of problems around this idea of creating the commons with many organizations that are embracing in the process of doing you know, the work to face the incredible challenges. We're kind of lacking the consistency in the frameworks and standards. And many of these can be solved by trying to uniformly connect it, but that those unified systems aren't there. So actually there's a lot of darkness. And when we have like 50 million slaves in the world, we really need these points that we can make sense of this darkness and we can have some kind of verification. And distributed systems can do many things around this, and blockchain and decentralized identities can provide that anchor of truth amid this swirl of information. And, you know, for us to be able to string together all this information in the world and be able to solve these problems, we have this insurmountable task. But enabling distributed systems can enable the scaling of very small groups and connect that tissue together. And that's what we need to do to solve this. We need to have connective tissue, and we need to also have the ability for smaller groups to organize and make sense with within these systems. And AI is going to do a tremendous amount to help us do this organization. And these decentralized identities are playing an important role in helping us know which information is valid and which is not, or where it's coming. And in that, we also have to look at how do we create light and handle privacy, or even situations where people might be in danger. And we can start mapping all of this stuff, which is super important, and we can map impact to climate using SDGs, I believe, is a really strong use case. And also why I think the UNSDPI is really important is connecting all of these dots. And how can we look at creating decentralized systems with open data, but also protecting people's privacy that are individuals and creating the common connective points. And that's why I think the UNSDPI, which is a framework that came out by the UN with a group of many different organizations, such as R3.0, with several brilliant leaders within that group and their host of numerous experts within the space, as well as others that have come together to work with the UN Research Institute of Sustainable Development to form a cohesive system that we can start mapping these various things around and be able to look at least from the standpoint of an annual report, if a company is making progress, have they moved the needle? Have they moved things in a way that we can start to contextualize? And then how can we use this open data so people can benchmark against each other, can find solutions, can use, all of the systems, and how can we connect the dots? There are a lot of organizations working on open data. And again, we're going to have all of these silos. So using this connective tissue, using these common points that we can agree on, we can convert the systems that we're using to map to other systems, and we're not going to see the diversity go away. We're going to probably have even more diversity as we start to see the data become present. And I think as we start to collect this, and using BFlo and what we've been creating is the ability not just to apply this to these annual reports, but how can we make moment by moment real time data attestations, and how can we enable everyone to share this intelligence, people to own their own data and own their own identity? And those, I think, is where we're seeing the movement of the future. And we can start to have this shared intelligence across the ecosystems and silos and see the interconnectivity of the industries with the individuals, with the climate footprint, and we can marry the benchmarking of the nature-based solutions, the science-based targets, the all the different industries that don't quite align. There are common points, and this is where I think the UNSDPI can serve us as some level of leadership that we can all agree to, and then use the UNSDPI as one mechanism to interpret the world's data. When we start looking at the United States and our movement towards more open data and Europe's progression, you're still seeing silos, you're still seeing differences, and finance is different than business, and in business you're going to have many different industries that differ from one another when you're looking at water compared to forestry, compared to metals, compared to chemicals. So we're not going to get rid of, again, this diversity, but we need to find these common points that we can agree with. And that's why I think it's so powerful and why we are looking to create this transparency consortium. So we've put together this, this initiative, and as part of it, we are looking for organizations and, if you're an investment group, a corporation, an agency, we can run an experiment to give depth towards the particular places that you're claiming that you're doing, and you have the information that you're publicly putting out. We want to map this and be able to give more emphasis on how we can start to see how organizations are getting to these claims. And then as part of that, we are running an initiative, and we'll be working in this satellite capacity with this platform to help bring together some of these annual reports as well under the UNSDPI. So thank you so much. If you are interested in participating, you can go to our website and scroll down. There's a link that you can take. And it's a pleasure to be here and to share this information. I have a video I can also show that I think is interesting from this connective tissue and what we can kind of end up with. Not only can we do the mapping, but we can also start to see relationships between the different things that we're looking at. So I'm just going to show one more piece, and then we'll conclude this share. So we have the mapping that we can do, but then once this stuff is mapped and we can start to see the impact relationships, we can begin to sort of parse them even more deeply and look at the connective tissue and the relationships between them. And like one example that we have here that I think is pretty cool is looking at, you know, some contributions from PayPal, which then connect to the Kiva organization, which then goes to Labor Links pilot, which then touches the organic farmers, which then goes to the design organization that's purchasing that cotton and creating verifiable cotton around the system. So just want to say thank you so much for having me, Miro. It's such a pleasure, you know, to be here. And if anybody's interested, go to nobleprofit.com and you can sign up with this. So thank you. And do you think you have any questions or you want to jam? Or let me know. Otherwise, I feel.
I mean,
So thank you.
okay.